In 1067, amidst a landscape marked by the clang of swords, a lord envisioned more than just survival. His dream was of stone, stone that would outlast time, etch his power against the sky, and cast long shadows over the conquered land. The first stone was laid, heavy with his aspirations, on ground still humming with the memory of conflict. Yet the hand placing it would never see the final edifice it was destined to become. Wars continued their destructive path, and disease arrived, conquering silently with invisible bonds. New lords left their imprints, like footprints in soft clay, and the relentless march of seasons ravaged what had been partially erected. This narrative unfolds the story of dreams solidified into stone and what 300 years can impose upon those aspirations, shaping and testing them, evolving from a formidable fortress to a grand palace, and finally transforming into a monument to an era long past. So journey with me through the dust and the faint echoes of chisels, where human ambition and historical forces intertwine. For this is a story constructed not just with walls, but with the profound weight of human struggle. Let us step back to the year 1067, a period when the aftermath of the Norman conquest was still fresh, and the world brimmed with burgeoning possibilities. In this volatile environment, dominated by uncertainty and crackling with the energy of change, an ambitious lord in England conceived a magnificent vision. This was more than a mere architectural blueprint. It was a bold declaration of authority, a fortress of stone and spirit built to endure the passage of ages. A new epoch was dawning, where power was established not solely by military might, but by the patient and skilled hands of the mason. Within the cold, drafty confines of a hall, where a fire sputtered defiantly against the winter's chill, the momentous announcement was made. An alliance forged with William the Conqueror had granted the Lord new territories and the means to defend them. Unlike the transient wooden strongholds easily consumed by fire and decay, this castle was destined to be an unyielding monument of stone. It was conceived as an eternal guardian, its vigilant gaze extending over vast tracts of land beyond the reach of the eye. Its very presence on the landscape was designed to inspire awe in allies and instill fear in adversaries, a reflection of the Lord's ambition to wield both security and influence. The desire to construct a stone castle was not unique during this period. Across the European continent, such robust fortifications were emerging as the architectural strongholds of a feudal society. However, our Lord's ambition was specifically rooted in the recently conquered England, where even the very stones seemed to resonate with the energy of transformation. Each stone meticulously placed was an act of establishing identity, offering not merely protection, but boldly proclaiming the Lord's dominion. Castles transcended their roles as simple residences or military outposts. They were microcosms of the societies they protected, cradling the narratives of human endeavor within their unyielding walls. Imagine, if you will, the muddy fields of England, scarred by the passage of armies leaving trampled grass in their wake. Here laborers gathered in the morning mist, their breath visible in the cool air as they grasped their tools. Villagers joined the ranks of skilled masons, their hands hardened by years of labor, all prepared to shape the earth into an imposing fortress. As the foundational stone was laid, the air felt heavy with the weight of history being actively created. This seemingly simple act resonated with a powerful hope for stability, a future built and secured by both stone and dreams. In a world where the realms of the supernatural and the earthly were deeply intertwined, laying a stone was more than a technical feat. It was a sacred act, imbued with profound symbolism and ritual. Priests chanted blessings, seeking divine approval, as if the very stones of the castle could somehow contain both the tangible and the ethereal. Superstitions permeated every corner, and securing celestial favor was considered essential for success, as vital as the mason's expert touch. As the stone settled into its earthly resting place, it embodied both a commencement and a solemn pledge, a commitment to the ambitious vision of a towering fortress ascending toward the sky. This burgeoning new order viewed the construction of a castle as a champion standard, a clear declaration of the Lord's elevated position within the feudal hierarchy. A castle built of stone conveyed wealth and influence with far greater impact than any number of knights in shining armor. Each fortified wall served a purpose beyond mere warfare. It was a center of governance, where vassals swore allegiance, where agreements were sealed during elaborate feasts, and where justice, as unforgiving and steadfast as the stone itself, was meted out. Castles intricately stitched England into a patchwork of domains, each anchored by its central fortress. The pervasive influence of this feudal system extended far beyond the battlefields, shaping the very core of medieval life and forever influencing how society functioned and prospered. The castle's imposing presence served as a constant reminder of authority. The resonant peal of the church bells, the rhythmic clang of the blacksmith's hammer, the perpetual hum of activity from the fields, all unfolded beneath its watchful shadow, bearing silent witness to the unyielding interplay of order and chaos. Constructing such a fortress was a formidable undertaking, demanding the combined creativity and perseverance of an entire community. Master masons, skilled practitioners of ancient, closely guarded techniques, transformed rough, unworked stone into imposing strongholds. Blacksmiths, carpenters, and numerous laborers all played vital roles, weaving a vibrant tapestry from the diverse practices of the medieval era. Every task held immense importance, from meticulously shaping stones to fit together as tightly as the ambitions they sheltered, to erecting towering scaffolds that reached towards the heavens. Yet, as is frequently the case in historical narratives, the true artisans, those whose hands crafted the very fabric of these structures, often remain anonymous and unsung. Lords in their battles fill the historical chronicles, while the hands that painstakingly carved dreams from stone vanish like whispers carried on the wind, remembered only, if at all, by the rare chronicler who possessed the foresight to acknowledge and honor their immense labor. Each stone they carefully positioned, every wall they successfully completed, stood as a powerful testament to human enterprise, even as their individual names faded into the obscurity of time. And so, as these initial walls steadily ascended, the very form of authority physically inscribed itself upon the landscape. Castles were not static structures. Their architectural designs continuously evolved, reflecting both advancements in defensive strategies and the unique personalities of those who commissioned and shaped them. Towers cast their distinct silhouettes upon the land, resembling black-cloaked sentinels against stormy skies, while the grand halls within echoed with the sounds of feasting and strategic planning. As the walls rose and the stones seemed to communicate with the skies, a narrative of ambition intertwined with artistry became permanently etched into the very fabric of the edifice, a powerful testament to human aspiration made manifest in stone. The rhythmic impact of chisels and hammers fills the air as the stone walls begin their upward journey toward the sky. Movement is constant and purposeful. Strong masons skillfully shape heavy blocks, their foreheads glistening with sweat in the sunlight, while laborers strain to heave stones using ropes and sleds, their muscles taut with exertion. This unfolding scene is a dynamic display of both diligent effort and unwavering ambition. Each foot of wall that rises embodies the Lord's powerful and dominating vision. Yet every stone meticulously set is not merely a step closer to completion. It is a subtle forewarning of the turbulence that is brewing beyond these walls. These fortifications are not simply grand dreams of splendor. They are vital necessities for survival in a tumultuous medieval landscape. As the castle gradually takes shape, it silently acknowledges a world constantly threatened by conflict. Raiders lurk on the periphery, constantly probing and testing its burgeoning defenses. The process of construction is a constant struggle against the ever-present menace of those who seek opportunity in chaos and disruption. Under a moonless sky, the fortress is cloaked in deep shadows, as if portending the unrest and conflict that are about to unfold. Raiders emerge silently from the dense woodlands, their stealth matched only by their insatiable hunger for plunder and destruction. Carrying shields reinforced with iron and armed with axes and torches, they storm the castle grounds, igniting chaos in their wake. Wooden structures quickly become engulfed in flames, transforming into pyres, and desperate cries pierce the night air. Hope, which was once embodied by the stone skeleton of the castle, now confronts terror and devastation. In this era, the boundary between safety and extreme peril is as fragile and thin as a shadow cast by the flickering light of a torch. Yet even as the immediate destruction subsides, the human spirit remains resilient and undeterred, ready to emerge from the ashes. The scars left by the knight's attack are not just marks of ruin, but powerful symbols of survival, fueling the deep-seated drive to rebuild and to build even stronger than before. The story of the raiders is not just one of destruction, it is also a poignant reminder of the indomitable will to reconstruct, to stand defiant and resilient in the face of future threats and adversity. The ash from the recent attack is barely scrubbed clean before another formidable challenge arises: civil war. Disputes among the nobility flare, their ambitions igniting conflicts as intense and destructive as a raging fire. The castle, a symbol of human perseverance and enduring spirit, is abruptly thrust into the larger drama of shifting allegiances and the relentless pursuit of power. Walls that once promised refuge and security now bear witness to turmoil as authority crumbles with the alarming ease of bricks under siege. Whispered rumors of approaching armies breed a pervasive sense of unease, creating an atmosphere heavy with dread and apprehension. Construction ambitions are abruptly halted as precious resources are diverted away from creation and towards pressing survival needs. In these desperate times, supplies that were once intended for construction are now seized by the urgent demands of war. The needs of soldiers are prioritized over architectural dreams and aspirations. Builders are forced to transform into warriors, their tools exchanged for weapons. Dreams fade like the smoke that darkens the skies above. Yet beneath this widespread tumult, resilience is rekindled, deeply intertwined with the very stones that bear the marks of past misfortunes, slowly uniting divided factions with the common goal of rebuilding and restoration. When the clashes of man have temporarily subsided, famine takes its relentless turn, a quiet but incredibly formidable foe. This adversary is unrelenting, rendering fields barren and forcing construction scaffolding into a state of stasis. Crops wither and die, victims of indifferent and harsh climates, leaving sustenance desperately scarce. Food becomes more precious and sought after than gold, and the haunting echoes of hunger are palpable within the castle's incomplete silhouette. This bastion, initially envisioned as a secure refuge against human aggression, offers absolutely no defense against nature's uncompromising and brutal assault. Hunger grips the populace, leaving the story of the castle tragically half-told, its stones suspended in time, awaiting a more favorable turn of events. But against this bleak and challenging tableau, the profound resolve to survive endures, with each new dawn renewing a deep commitment to outlast adversity and resume the crucial ascent toward completion. As these cycles of hardship continue, they occasionally give way to brief reprieves, moments where hammers and chisels find their rhythmic purpose once more. Progress, however, is fickle and uncertain, alternating unpredictably with sudden setbacks. Supplies are frequently interrupted, whether by passing raiders or the onset of illness, halting the steady upward climb of the walls. Even fields waterlogged by relentless rain can bring the vision low, turning both the ground and human hopes into a muddy, disheartening mess. In this recurring cycle of progression and frustrating pause, the ongoing construction reflects human resilience even more profoundly than it does raw ambition. The rhythm is not that of a relentless, unstoppable forward motion, but rather a careful and measured dance, acknowledging limitations and constantly testing fortitude. Yet from the harsh constraints of necessity, innovation often remarkably sprouts. With supplies frequently scarce and trade severely limited, builders are forced to adapt and find new ways forward. Designs originally conceived for sheer grandeur and spectacle evolve into practical and essential fortifications, effectively converting adversities into valuable architectural advancements. The castle's design transforms from focusing on impressive height to emphasizing cunning and effective defense, its form molded by the urgent demands of necessity. Slender walls are reimagined and transformed into multi-layered barriers, expertly ushering any potential intruder into calculated and strategic traps. Armed with newfound ingenuity, unseen passageways are incorporated, providing secretive means of entry and exit. As the crafts of builders and warriors merge and integrate, the fortress becomes far more than the sum of its individual stones. A powerful testimony to inventive tenacity in the face of unyielding and persistent challenges. Even as the threat of famine occasionally recurs, the castle slowly begins to stretch towards a fragile sense of stability. Prosperity gradually follows, as each stone carefully set is a silent affirmation of human resilience and the enduring spirit. Within its protective walls, life begins to truly blossom. Masons, bakers, herdsmen, and apothecaries each play their vital role in this intricate microcosm of society, layering a sense of unity within the cold, sturdy embrace of the stone structure. Each brick laid is a silent and powerful proclamation of victory against adversity and hardship. The castle stands not only as an architectural triumph, but as a testament to indomitable hope, a place where history finds its eternal echo. Layers of hardship and struggle are intricately woven into the very mortar. Yet the fortress remains standing, a testament not just to survival, but to a lasting legacy of defiant hope. This is not merely a structure of stone, it is the profound story of countless souls, their ambitions permanently etched into its stone. As a new dawn breaks, the castle, standing solid against the horizon, symbolizes a significant transition from a focus on mere survival to one of potential and possibility, a future carefully crafted from resilient hope in the face of adversity. As the first 100 years of the castle's slow and arduous gestation drew to a close, the torch of its unfinished vision was passed down from one generation to the next. The original dreamers, those who first conceived the grand design, were long gone, leaving behind their magnificent yet incomplete ideas to be reimagined and continued by their descendants. These new lords arrived, bringing with them fresh ambitions and unique perspectives that subtly colored the fortress walls with new shades of purpose and meaning. This generational shift was less about dismissing the past entirely and more about intricately weaving their own legacy into the existing stone tapestry, reflecting the unpredictable twists of time, the profound societal changes that had occurred, and the evolving tactics of warfare. With the arrival of each succeeding lord came not just a simple rearrangement of blueprints, but a broad spectrum of deeply personal influences, each driven by their own specific aspirations and fears. What had initially been envisioned as a towering square keep dominating the horizon began gradually morphing into rounded forms, a change that puzzled even the most astute overseer. A delicate and intricate dance ensued, balancing a reverence for what had been built before with a compelling and urgent need to adapt to new realities and demands. The medieval world was undergoing rapid transformation, with sweeping socio-economic tides and complex strategic challenges influencing every single brick and beam that was added to the enduring foundation. In the broader sweep of time, techniques and military tactics made significant leaps forward, effectively casting aside the now obsolete square towers in favor of more effective rounded ones. A clever and crucial shift specifically designed to deflect the relentless projectiles of competing armies. This evolution in design was not simply about achieving a more visually appealing aesthetic. It was a pragmatic and gritty response to the ruthless advancements that were being made in siege warfare. Here, brute strength met a strategic finesse, and once imposing monoliths gave way to more pliable and adaptable fortresses, structures that were keenly aware of and responsive to new threats appearing on the horizon. Arrow slits were widened to accommodate the heralds of change, such as primitive firearms that were just beginning to emerge. However, this transformation was not solely dictated by the harsh demands of war. It also spoke of a much richer and more nuanced understanding of medieval life, a life that required castles to be more than just defensive strongholds. They needed to be havens, not only for protection, but for the everyday vitality and functioning of society. Each newly laid stone echoed with the whispered learnings and hard-won wisdom of past generations, a powerful reminder that these castles were not merely static relics of the past, but living stories permanently etched in rock. New bloodlines, bringing with them their unique cultural intricacies and personal whims, entered the scene, significantly reshaping the spaces within the castle against the ever-changing backdrop of the times. From the rugged, unadorned stone emerged gentle and refined nuances, influences brought home by lords who had traveled extensively, returning crusaders, and the swelling tides of Gothic and Renaissance aesthetics that were spreading across Europe. The castle, which had once served solely as an austere bastion of defense, began transforming slowly, its stark facades gradually starting to speak the language of art and luxury. Within its walls, vibrant tapestries were unfurled, depicting both grand mythological scenes and the simple rhythmic patterns of everyday existence, a rich visual narrative inviting all who entered to lose themselves amidst their myriad colors. Living quarters were expanded, and windows grew larger to welcome greater streams of natural light, fundamentally reshaping the fortress from a purely defensive refuge into a testament of evolving cultural awareness and sophistication. These sophisticated flourishes whispered of a world where brute might had once clashed with refined elegance, where defense now flanked delicate artistry and comfort in every corner and nook. Yet with every ambitious redesign and addition came the inherent risk of folly. Not all changes met with the stone's silent approval. Some dreams proved crooked, towers leaned precariously as a result of miscalculation, or foundations faltered. A timeless reminder that ambition, no matter how grand, did not always guarantee success or stability. In their fervent desire to imbue their constructions with a strong personal flair, lords occasionally inadvertently wove elements of weakness into their creations, leaving future generations to ponder these curious oddities embedded within the fortress's very identity. But even such imperfections became an integral part of the castle's character. Silent tales of ambition executed with a mix of both fortitude and folly. Every curious twist, quirk, and unexpected element added layers to the overall tapestry of the castle, creating a structure that was as much a document of its lord's personal volatility and eccentricities as it was of their triumphs, offering historians and storytellers endless mysteries and fascinating details to unravel and explore. While the great halls resonated with tales of grand feasts and displays of power, the sparse and unadorned quarters revealed the harsh and simple life endured by those whose hands had built and maintained the colossal structure. Lords occupied chambers of luxurious comfort, warmed by large crackling fireplaces, while the workers contemplated the world from cramped, cold quarters. This stark disparity served as a daily and undeniable reminder of the power dynamics that were constantly played out within these thick walls, juxtaposing extravagant opulence against the unseen and unacknowledged labor of the many. Through the castle's perpetual evolution and adaptation, its role expanded far beyond that of a mere fortress to become a pulsating epicenter of medieval life. It transformed into a cradle for governance and culture, a place where more than just battles were fought and won. These stone walls held within them the intricate complexities of a society actively navigating its own rapidly shifting landscape, a true nexus for decisions that would ultimately shape lands far beyond the reach of its shadow. As stone markers of power and influence, castles balanced opulent displays of wealth and status with essential defensive capabilities, becoming powerful political instruments, casting long shadows of strength and sovereignty over the surrounding lands. Rooms within whispered of alliances that had been forged and secrets that had been sealed, each intricate and significant agreement adorned with the symbolic ornaments of possible human fates. Thus, the fortress was not merely a residence. It was a tool, one meticulously constructed to reflect its owner's prestige, power, and place in the world. The very architecture became a tangible testament to the ongoing tug-of-war involved in maintaining power amidst the unpredictable tides of the feudal system. Its evolving layout mirrored not only advancements in defensive strategies, but also the unfolding familial legacies narrated through the enduring language of stone. Each hall and corridor traced the progression of both human ambition and the timeless solidity of stone, constant reminders of the countless hands that had dared to make history. As generations turned to dust and passed away, what endured was a fortress that meticulously cataloged the ceaseless and inevitable cycle of change. Its hard-won lessons on adaptability, carved out through centuries of trial and necessity, stood resilient, a vessel capturing the enduring spirit of a world slowly rising from the shadow of antiquity. Within its stones were inscribed not just tales of power and dominance, but the persistent hum of human endeavor, forever whispering the stories of its makers to all who walked its echoing halls. The 14th century arrived quietly, bringing with it an unseen threat that would cast a dark shroud over Europe: the bubonic plague. Whispers of death traveled on the trade winds, hidden on the backs of fleas living on rats, spreading silently and inexorably across the land. For our castle, still more of a vision than a complete reality, the plague was not merely a sickness, it was a profound silence, stealing away the masons, carpenters, and laborers who had once breathed life into its cold stone structure. Empty scaffolds and abandoned tools stood as ghostly reminders of the bustling activity that was now only a memory, an eerie stillness descending over the landscape. The plague struck with ruthless efficiency, showing no regard for status or skill. As villages succumbed, once thriving communities dwindled into desolation, leaving the castle's nascent walls to shelter only the wind and a few stray wanderers. Untended farmlands surrendered to the wild, nature reclaiming the spaces that man had ambitiously attempted to tame. The foundation stones, deeply embedded in the heart of the village, bore the weight not just of the stone itself, but of lost legacies and forgotten lives. As the dark cloud of disease swept across the region, the hope of completion faded, leaving behind tales of forgotten workers, their names perhaps once etched in stone, but now lost to the relentless march of time. The castle's unfinished walls stood as a poignant testimony to the skill and sweat of their creators. Yet, as the Black Death spread, so too did the loss of irreplaceable craftsmanship. Each artisan carried secrets and techniques passed down through generations, and the plague, indifferent to human skill, laid waste to this vital heritage. Guilds that had once flourished collapsed in ruin, their unique arts fading away. Surviving builders found their craft a mere ghost of its former self. Apprentices without masters faced an insurmountable void, and incomplete castle segments became unintended monuments to halted artistry, relics now maintained with makeshift repairs by those few who were left behind. Within the castle, life transformed from communal warmth and interaction into guarded isolation and fearful separation. Quarantine became the primary means of survival, turning open courts into prisons of fear and anxiety. Gates that had once been hospitable stood tightly sealed, with portcullises drawn down like grim mouths, set against the terrifying threat of the world beyond. This isolation did not just create physical barriers, it also bred suspicion and mistrust, severely fraying the bonds of trust that had once knitted communities together. Every cough became a source of alarm, every fever a fearful precursor to exile or death. In this oppressive atmosphere, the very air felt heavy with whispered paranoia and deep-seated fear. The irony was palpable. The castle walls, powerful symbols of safety against human foes, provided no refuge whatsoever from this unseen and microscopic enemy. The defensive architecture, designed to withstand the assaults of armies, was utterly powerless against a microscopic foe that crept and killed with no respect for stone or steel. These once protective fortifications now echoed with a cruel paradox. Instead of offering safety, they offered entrapment. Families watched in despair as their claims of sanctuary faltered, and courts were reduced to fragile shadows of their former authority. In this new and terrifying reality, death, once a feared adversary, became an all too familiar and constant presence. The plague disrupted and changed burial customs into bleak, hurried affairs. Makeshift graves swallowed the dead without ceremony, turning sacred rituals into a grim and mournful procession. But even in the face of such widespread despair, the seeds of survival miraculously persisted. Adherence to what the church often decried as idle superstition grew, with charms and relics carried as shields against the pestilence's invisible reach. Bells tolled not merely as markers of death, but as desperate declarations of endurance, ringing out across abandoned fields in hopes of warding off the encroaching doom. Meanwhile, outside these thick stone walls, nature forcefully asserted its dominion. Moss crept steadily over the strong stone. Vines wove intricate patterns where architecture had once boasted human triumph. Birds nested and creatures burrowed where humanity had retreated, flourishing in this unintended sanctuary. The castle's defenses crumbled not from violent assault, but from benign neglect, now a tapestry blending the forces of nature with abandoned human ambition. A place once alive with laughter and activity, now surrendered to the rhythmic and inevitable cycle of decay and rebirth. In the quiet echoes of past laughter, the sounds of children's games lingered, transformed into distant and bittersweet memories. Simple gatherings that had once brought people together were now only ghosts. Yet the bonds that had been formed in the harsh crucible of survival endured, a testament to human resilience amidst persistent despair. The castle served as a silent repository of life's echoes, a haunting marker of all that could have been. Despite this somber and challenging landscape, those who survived found strength, forging steel-strong ties through shared hardship and mutual support. The castle, with its unfinished halls and empty hearths, had indeed become an architecture of despair, its stones heavy with unfulfilled dreams and lost aspirations. Plans lay in dust, and dashed hopes echoed through chambers that had once been filled with ambition and optimism. Yet even amidst this melancholy, innovation flourished and thrived. Solutions were whispered between workers, born out of sheer necessity rather than relying solely on tradition. These makeshift strategies, simple and resource-driven, gave rise to a practical resilience and a deep well of wisdom. Lessons not carved in stone, but in memories, passed down to guide others through future trials and tribulations. As the 14th century receded into quiet memory, the castle stood resilient, its story inextricably interwoven with those whose dreams had dared to brave life's harsh trials. Whispers of legacy echoed through each surviving stone, speaking of battles waged, dreams tested, and the enduring spirit of humanity. Within this silence lay a profound testament, a testament for those who would follow, inscribed not just in stone, but in the fortitude of the human spirit itself, shaped by history's relentless hammer, whispering its silent counsel for all who dared to pause and listen. As the sun began its descent on the medieval age, a new and disruptive sound shattered the centuries of silence. The thunderous roar of gunpowder weapons, signaling the dawn of the cannon era. This powerful and disruptive force sent shivers through the ancient and revered art of castle building. Those proud stone walls, which had once been seemingly impervious to the brute strength of battering rams and siege engines, now crumbled under the relentless and destructive assault of cannonballs. Battlefield reports were stark and undeniable. Castles that had previously stood as impregnable fortresses became deadly traps for their occupants, victims of their own former invincibility. This was more than just a challenge of engineering. It was a fundamental and revolutionary upheaval. For centuries, castles had stood as powerful symbols of noble power and divine right. Yet now they were exposed as emblems of vulnerability and obsolescence. Architects and military strategists were suddenly thrust into a whirlwind of urgent innovation, a revolution in a world that had long been accustomed to slow and gradual evolution. The call was clear and urgent: adapt or face complete obsolescence. Walls that had once only needed to block and absorb incoming blows were now required to deflect and actively resist the force of artillery. This urgent and necessary reimagining of defensive structures presented a formidable and complex puzzle to medieval architects. They were tasked with the challenging responsibility of creating fortifications resilient enough to endure these newfound artillery assaults. The towering walls, once the hallmarks of indestructible fortresses, were now easily mocked and breached by the cruel precision of cannon fire. Designers desperately pored over ancient texts and foreign manuscripts, striving to glean insights and inspirations from distant traditions, all while racing against the relentless march of time. The solutions they ultimately devised were as varied as they were ingenious and creative. Some chose to dramatically lower the castle's profile, thickening its walls and embedding them more deeply into the earth, shifting the strategy from defiance to resilience and absorption. Others took a more geometric and strategic approach, crafting angular bastions with sharp points that effectively repelled cannonballs, deflecting them neatly away from the main structure, transforming castles from traditional squares into star-shaped designs. The bastion fort, a completely new breed of fortress featuring triangular projections, and reinforced terraces that blended seamlessly into the surrounding landscape emerged from this era of intense innovation. These new constructions embraced the earth, creating sprawling and complex layouts of stone and soil that effectively absorbed the thunderous impact of cannon fire. No longer reaching dramatically skyward, they settled into the terrain, shrewdly camouflaged as extensions of the natural hills. The change marked a significant transition from grandeur and visual dominance to pragmatism and functional defense. Castles were no longer the towering symbols of old, but rather defensive architectural systems that cleverly bent nature to their needs. The castle's silhouette against the horizon shifted from a proud and overt assertion of might to a calculated and subtle statement of survival, losing its lofty height but gaining a formidable and adaptive resilience. The changes were not confined to the ground level. Beneath the stones, construction pushed further underground, creating extensive networks of vaults and tunnels. Designers ensured that castles could endure besiegement not only from relentless cannon fire above, but also from within, providing vital subterranean protection. These hidden underground havens protected essential resources, food, arms, and people, shielding them from the chaos and destruction raging above. Within the dim, somber atmosphere of these hidden passages, defenders found a complex blend of both sanctuary and claustrophobia, a mix of crucial protection and inherent peril. As the craft of artillery became increasingly indispensable to warfare, a new professional class rose to prominence. Artillerists, skilled and adept in the complex alchemy of gunpowder, wielded their destructive tools with an authority once solely reserved for the nobility. Their creations evolved from simple siege implements to revered symbols of technological innovation and fear. Cannons, heavy and imposing, not only caused immense physical destruction, but also struck deep dread in the hearts of enemies long before their deafening noise filled the air. The men who manned these iron beasts, more artisans than traditional soldiers, commanded significant respect. Their specialized skills were vital in a world rapidly pivoting toward new military technology. Amidst this profound evolution, the roles within castles were significantly reshuffled. Gunpowder's demands dramatically altered the medieval social fabric, blending gender roles as never before. With new and urgent tasks at hand, women emerged not only in their traditional roles as cooks and caretakers, but as integral components in the workings of defense, mixing gunpowder, crafting ammunition, and managing complex logistics. Their contributions proved absolutely essential in the face of sustained siege warfare. This symbiosis within the castle walls represented a subtle but significant shift in labor dynamics, one that ultimately shaped the broader strokes of medieval life. The cultural ripples of these changes extended beyond the castle battlements, challenging traditional norms with dynamic new military tactics and strategies. The fusion of old and new ideals sparked tension and creativity in equal measure as castles adopted foreign influences and ideas. Bastion designs woven from cross-cultural threads brought a melting pot of ideas, harmonizing ancient architectural wisdom with cutting-edge concepts. As tacticians fine-tuned their operations to maximize cannon efficiency, they harnessed a strategic dexterity that skillfully embraced both the tested and the novel approaches to warfare. This period encapsulated a profound metamorphosis, a complex interplay of innovation and heritage that fundamentally reframed the martial ethos of the era. Yet, as the gunpowder era fully unfolded, castles began to witness their inevitable twilight. Cannons transformed from solely siege tools to powerful symbols of a shifting strategic focus, marking the eventual decline of these once majestic fortifications. The realization gradually crept in. These once proud castles, powerful emblems of another time, were steadily fading into obsolescence. Lured away from their intended defensive glory, they found new roles as administrative hubs or artillery depots, their strategic supremacy slowly dimming. Mobile warfare, with its growing need for centralized control and the ability to project power over sprawling territories, superseded the static bastion concept. The era of fixed fortifications gave way to a transient epoch of logistics and adaptive strategies, profoundly influenced by gunpowder's undeniable power and destructive capability. The impact extended significantly to peasants and laborers whose lives became intricately intertwined with the burgeoning gunpowder industry. Resources were diverted from agrarian pursuits to meet the increasing demands of artillery production. Blacksmiths and miners worked endlessly at roaring forges, and the village rhythms suffered as fields lay fallow, with men drawn away by urgent military needs. This shift revealed gunpowder's duality, progress intertwined with immense toil and hardship. Thus, cannonballs carved not only stone, but the very social fabric of society, fundamentally altering the tempo and nature of life. The legacy of the gunpowder revolution unfurled in the centuries that followed, shaping governance and fundamental thought processes. Castles, once bastions of noble power, gradually submitted to central authorities wielding the formidable might of gunpowder. The scientific curiosity spurred by the development and use of artillery paved the way for broader explorations in physics and metallurgy. The age of cannon, spelling the end of traditional castles as primary defensive structures, heralded a new era, a powerful testament to human adaptability and the ever-turning wheel of history, irrevocably reshaped by the irresistible call of innovation. The midday sun streamed through the unfinished arches of the Great Hall, casting intricate patterns of light and shadow upon the flagstone floor. Today was meant to be a moment of triumphant celebration. The king himself was expected to visit, a presence intended to infuse a sense of life and significance into the castle's still skeletal stone shell. The master of ceremonies barked orders, and harried servants frantically attempted to conjure an air of opulence from the surrounding chaos, hanging banners over scaffolding and placing lavish spreads of food on makeshift tables that groaned under the weight. This was grand theater, a desperate and elaborate dance designed to mask the inherent incompleteness and the mounting financial strain afflicting the unfinished fortress. Despite the glaring gaps in construction, the king's entourage, a retinue of nobles, knights, and eager courtiers, arrived with a clatter of hooves, a murmur of muted whispers, and an air of palpable anticipation. The regal procession passed through the half-complete archway into the confusing jumble of aspirations and supporting scaffolding. They attempted to blend the required grandeur with the raw necessities of the construction site, hoping to project an image of forthcoming majesty and completion. Yet beneath the elaborate facade of celebration, the underlying tension of unmet expectations and strained resources was undeniably palpable. But for the moment, the festivities had to prevail, temporarily bearing the harsh reality of stretched finances and ambitious dreams, which were increasingly battered and worn down by the passage of time and circumstance. Royal visits often carried with them the promise of financial aid, the king's declarations echoing through halls that had never fully resonated with the sound of victory, intended to hasten construction and replenish the empty coffers. However, these promises often proved as elusive as the wind, whispers that faded away as urgent state matters redirected the much-needed funding elsewhere. The vision of a completed fortress flirted tantalizingly with the possibility of change, but the sounds of hammering and construction regularly fell silent as funds were perpetually diverted to new and pressing military demands. It was a frustrating cycle of rising hopes followed by inevitable lulls. Periods where the silence of tools muted against the unfinished walls told a story of dreams repeatedly frustrated and deferred. The diversion of wealth was not merely a matter of neglect. It was a clear indication of the turbulent era, perpetually on the brink of fresh conflict. Financial reserves were constantly being tapped to quell internal disturbances or to prepare for impending battles. Castles, particularly those not situated on the immediate front lines, became secondary casualties of this persistent financial tumult. Hopes for a magnificent and fully realized fortress were consistently overshadowed by more immediate demands, relegated to mere footnotes in financial ledgers as the hands that were meant to build the walls were forced into disheartening inaction. Still, the festivities continued amidst the grand but unfulfilled aspirations. Music filled the half-built chambers, musicians' lively tunes struggling to drown out the creaking of the scaffolding and the scattered debris. Rich tapestries were hung to temporarily clothe the naked stone walls, and tables overflowed with an abundance of meats and wines, a display of opulence presented as a stark juxtaposition to the commoner's struggles outside the castle's incomplete walls. Amidst all this, everyone present sensed it. The grand vision remained encased in its skeletal frame of hopes indefinitely deferred. The temporary merriment offered a brief respite from the pervasive uncertainty. Within those half-finished halls, nobles mingled with artisans and peasants, all bound together by the shared experience of the fleeting joys of survival. Despite the grand, hollow ambitions that loomed over them, a semblance of normalcy reigned for a time with dance and song, momentarily postponing the uncomfortable acknowledgement that the grand aspirations were slowly collapsing under their own immense weight in the pressures of reality. As evening descended, the harsh reality of leaks and imperfections crept in alongside the increasing chill. The luxurious facade of the day gave way to practical flaws and deficiencies. Rain pooled on floors where roofs were sparse or incomplete. Stains on tapestries whispered silent stories of leaks and water damage. Guests navigated corridors that alternated between sections of imposing stone and desperate patches of elegance. Here, the true measure of luxury meant facing the elements, a struggle the castle, in its incomplete state, could not adequately meet. Within the castle's walls, drafts and water damage were more than just minor nuisances. They were an indictment of the neglect and lack of completion hindered by persistent financial woes. Every storm that passed underscored the urgent necessity for quality masonry, a fact known intimately by the masons themselves, whose livelihoods were directly reliant on funds that often vanished before their work could reach fruition. Inside the lavishly adorned yet drafty chambers, impermeability and basic weather protection often mattered far more than ornate flourishes or decorative details. Both the nobility and the artisans alike bore the burdens of grand expectations that remained largely unmet. Charged with the responsibility of realizing visions initiated by their overlords, they found themselves trapped in a cycle that mirrored the castle's own existence. Grand ideals were constantly constrained by material shortages and the lack of necessary resources. At feasts, the flickering torchlight seemed to whisper foreboding tales of storms yet to come. In the empty spaces where stones should have been marked, the unrealized dreams cast in their absence. Time marched on, indifferent to human failures and fading ambitions. Decades passed, but what had begun as a bold and confident proclamation now lay humbler and less imposing, an unfinished testament to lofty ideals that were repeatedly compromised by harsh realities. Political necessities consistently overshadowed the initial intentions of legacy building, transforming even optimistic endeavors into a shadowy reflection of persistent and challenging circumstances. Despite its flaws and incompleteness, the castle stood resolute, a testament, both dubious and genuine, to a time characterized by varying levels of investment and impossible deadlines. The stonemason's touch persevered against harsh realities and setbacks. Each meticulously chiseled element served as a silent whisper of ambitions that were thwarted yet still enduring. The structure itself narrated a story of determination in the face of shortcomings, an echo of artistry attempting to transcend neglect, promising potential even in the face of perceived defeat. Here, dreams deferred were still sublime, attracting visitors who sympathized with the flawed grandeur and the exultant narrative frozen in stone. Unfinished, the structure embodied past aspirations, an intricate blend of ambition, artistry, and airy, perhaps unrealistic, hope. The stones, marred yet still majestic, seemed to sing of inspired endeavors carried out amidst adversity, a castle not just of stone, but of the resilient human spirit, imperfectly eternal. Amidst the sprawling stone walls and soaring towers, the laborers who transformed these castles from mere sketches into formidable strongholds often fade into historical obscurity. These forgotten architects left their indelible mark not with pen or brush, but through the sweat and relentless toil that solidified into the enduring stone. Their names are long absent from history books, overshadowed by the more readily documented tales of nobility and warfare. Yet in every weathered corner and every foundational stone, the echoes of their untold stories whisper across the centuries, a poignant testament to the ceaseless hierarchy that viewed them as nameless cogs in a grander design. For many, laboring on a castle was an undertaking that spanned generations, an endeavor whose ultimate completion they would never personally witness, leaving behind trails of effort that spoke volumes of persistence and overlooked contribution. The life of such laborers was undeniably brutal, marked by an unrelenting grind of physical labor and the constant specter of sacrifice. Peasants found in Castle building a temporary respite from an even harsher existence, despite the grim and challenging conditions, which included ramshackle camps, scant and often insufficient food, and the constant looming threat of disease or debilitating injury. For prisoners who were forced into labor, chiseling stone became both a form of punishment and a cruel irony. The stones they laid bore silent testimony to the weight of coercion, sometimes reflected in the occasional handprint deliberately left behind, or a carved piece of graffiti, a subdued act of defiance and individuality. Together, these laborers comprised a forgotten chorus, their collective efforts forever bound within the very stones they shaped and placed. Beyond the large masses of general laborers, the skilled craftsmen were those who bestowed a sense of elegance and intricate detail upon these fortresses. Masons, carpenters, blacksmiths, a dedicated cadre of artisans whose hands lent both aesthetic beauty and essential functional elements to the castles. They wielded their tools with a precision that had been honed over years, their skills passed down through generations like a sacred trust. Masons, in particular, held highly esteemed positions, their work often rivaling that of the architects of the time. Each mason's mark etched into a stone was a personal legacy, even though their true identities are often buried beneath layers of historical neglect and the passage of time. To them, the castle was both a canvas for their skill and, in a sense, a captor, bound by tools that were both rudimentary and remarkably ingenious for their time. Despite limited resources, these craftsmen met challenges with innovative solutions that brilliantly reflected human ingenuity and problem-solving. Scaffolding rose to staggering and unprecedented heights. Stones were moved with surprising efficiency on log rollers, and arches were constructed with newfound daring and structural understanding. Their implements often echoed the basic principles of modern tools. Even simple pulleys demonstrated principles of balance and strength in motion, yet required immense skill and careful technique to use effectively. Here, artistry met brute force, transforming raw materials into cohesive and enduring structures and leaving behind a silent testament to shared knowledge and unwavering human resolve. The daily struggle for survival at these work sites was relentless and unforgiving, marked by dangerous working conditions and back-breaking physical toil. Each day posed the significant risk of lethal accidents, and harsh weather conditions exacted a heavy toll on already exhausted bodies. Fatigue chipped away at vigilance, and debilitating injuries were often the result of relentless monotony and repetitive strain. Yet for many, this labor was not just about wages. It was a matter of sheer survival. Each task completed was essential to securing another day's sustenance and the fleeting pleasures that were available to the peasantry. Bonds among workers became vital, a camaraderie born out of shared necessity and hardship, offering shelter against the harsh gusts of adversity. The laughter and stories shared during precious moments of rest forged deep connections that were essential for enduring the grim and challenging conditions. Still, disease outbreaks frequently tested these fragile solidarities, each cough a harbinger of potential loss and grief. Even amidst such stark realities, a flicker of hope persisted, the belief that their monumental effort might ultimately carve a greater and more lasting legacy. In history's vast and intricate tapestry, these laborers often remain cast in shadow, their contributions muffled by the annals of time that prioritize the deeds of the powerful. While nobles' exploits adorn the pages of chronicles, the innumerable hands that laid stone after stone went largely unnoticed and undocumented. Death was a constant companion, as many perished from the hardships of construction or succumbed to devastating plagues. Their bodies often bore wounds that whispered tales of immense sacrifice, trivialized in their era as mere wear and tear on human machinery. Yet the enduring remnants of these builders resonate in the stones themselves, standing as powerful monuments to their endurance and perseverance, a legacy expressed not in written words, but etched into the resilient structures they created. Each crumbling facade and aged archway silently carries the weight of their sacrifices, inviting modern eyes to look upon these ancient stones and acknowledge the enduring spirit and immense effort of countless nameless lives. The castles remained steadfast against the relentless passage of time, whispering stories of dreams that were realized through persistent effort and unwavering determination. In these ancient architectural wonders, we catch faint glimpses of remarkable ingenuity, the tools and techniques, primitive yet pioneering, that allowed stone to seemingly defy gravity and soar skyward. Structures conceived from necessity and resourcefulness stand here as enduring testaments, reflections of an age where skilled craftsmanship dictated the pace of progress. Hearts were poured into every hammer stroke, every scaffold meticulously erected, and each nail painstakingly forged, amalgamations of human struggle and ultimate triumph. Stories unfurl in the gentle whispers of soft songs that once filled the air, interludes of music offering solace and relief from the arduous tasks. Harmony remarkably emerged when the demanding physical labor was punctuated by melody, a shared language of hope, escape, and resilient spirit. Silence, too, held its importance, casting workers into introspective moments amidst the din as they erected these colossal legacies, powerful testaments to what the collective human spirit could create under the immense physical and psychological weight of monumental stone. Thus, these fortresses, once formidable guardians against nature's threats, now stand as relics that demand a rewriting of history's perception. Not merely engineering marvels, but profound tributes to communal strength and cooperation. They are memorials to those who labored in silence and suffered anonymously for grand visions that transcended individual generations. The forgotten builders may fade away, but their enduring influence remains, deeply infused in every stone, an indelible echo of humanity's persistent pursuit of grandeur and enduring legacy across time's sweeping canvas. In a time when the resonant clash of swords and the rhythmic drumbeat of war gradually began to soften, the Grand Castle, which had once served as a formidable bastion of defense, commenced its gradual transformation into a powerful symbol of peace and growing prosperity. As noble families increasingly embraced the serenity of their lands, they recognized an opportunity not just to survive the turbulent times, but to truly thrive and flourish. The fortress that had long served as a vital shield against invaders now underwent a significant evolution, becoming a canvas for luxury and refined living. The stark stone exterior, once a clear expression of might and military strength, experienced a profound metamorphosis, reflecting a new era characterized by opulence and sophistication. The heavy, unyielding walls designed to withstand relentless sieges were now punctuated with large, expansive windows, welcoming sunlight into spaces that had previously languished in shadow. Moats, which had formerly served as strategic obstacles to attackers, were transformed into calm and tranquil bodies of water, flanked by meticulously designed and sculpted gardens, whispering tales of elegance and refined taste. Every single change was deliberate and purposeful, a testament to the aristocracy's evolving aspirations, which were no longer dictated by the sword, but by a refined aesthetic that spoke volumes of leisure, comfort, and sophistication. Architects, working in close collaboration with skilled artisans, curated a careful blend of beauty and history, allowing the ancient stones to recount tales not of war and conflict, but of peace and prosperity. The castle's transition was far more than mere embellishment. It marked a fundamental paradigm shift in its very essence and purpose. Majestic walls, which had once been solely fortifications, now became the stage for artistic expression and creativity. The once utilitarian and functional spaces were now adorned with the intricate and beautiful works of stonemasons, skilled woodworkers, and talented weavers. Vibrant tapestries were unfurled across the walls, their threads weaving rich stories of mythology and detailed family lineage. A visual narrative inviting all who entered to lose themselves amidst their intricate patterns and vibrant colors. As trade routes flourished, bringing exotic influences and materials from distant lands, the castle's interiors began to reflect this new global perspective and cosmopolitanism. Gothic architectural styles seamlessly merged with Renaissance aesthetics, and each room unfolded like a captivating chapter in a tale of adaptability, change, and cultural exchange. The faded echoes of past battles were replaced with the lively hum of conversation and the sounds of intellectual discourse. Dust-covered armories gave way to extensive libraries lined with volumes, capturing the wisdom and knowledge of this dawning age. Within these halls, textiles softened the inherent chill of the stone, creating an environment that was as comforting and inviting as it was lavish and grand. Fabrics colored with the rich hues of distant realms were draped across windows and lined the walls, allowing light to transform chambers into either intimate and secluded enclaves or vibrant and bustling stages for social gatherings. The mastery displayed in these woven wonders bridged the gap between function and fantasy, intricately threading the castle's long and complex history into every surface. Rooms expanded, their functions shifting to accommodate the changing times and needs. Where archers had once stood, poised and ready to defend the fortress, lords and ladies now dined in opulence, entertained guests in salons echoing with the sounds of music and debate. Kitchens grew significantly in size to satiate appetites sharpened not by the rigors of war, but by the pleasures of elaborate and multi-course feasts. The fundamental change in function highlighted a significant societal shift, a move away from collective defense towards individual enjoyment, intellectual exchange, and social interaction. Even with this grand transformation, echoes of the castle's martial past continued to linger within its stones. Towers that had once served as defensive strongpoints now functioned as majestic observation points, still whispering stories of watchful nights and vigilance. Turrets that had previously hosted archers now provided panoramic views, serving as both a testament to their defensive origins and a symbol of newfound indulgence and leisure. These architectural remnants were not simply relics of the past. They reinforced the striking contrast between primal necessity and refined indulgence, echoing a tale of resilience and adaptation. Amidst the splendor and beauty of the new design, intrigue thrived. The castle, now transformed into a palace, became a stage for political maneuvering and social games as alliances shifted and formed during elaborate feasts and masquerade balls, the air thick with the aroma of exquisite delicacies. The very walls seemed to hold secrets of whispered negotiations and clandestine midnight pacts, as power dynamics shifted from relying on martial might to engaging in the nuanced dance of diplomacy and wit. And still, beneath the veneer of modern luxury and comfort, the castle's ancient stones bore silent witness to their original purpose. Patches of weathered stone and forgotten niches remembered the hands that had built them, whispering stories of defense, hardship, and enduring human effort. The transformation from fortress to palace was not just a physical change, but a profound metaphorical one, a remembrance of the history deeply embedded in its very foundation. In this unfolding narrative, every stone meticulously placed and every tapestry carefully hung became a testament to a time when formidable fortifications softened under the balm of peace and prosperity. Within the gardens that grew alongside the castle walls, paths gracefully twined through manicured hedgerows and vibrant flowers, as colorful and intricate as any tapestry. Here, a different kind of conquest took place, the triumph over nature's inherent chaos, skillfully shaped into an ordered paradise by careful hands. Nobles wandered leisurely amidst these natural artworks, their footsteps the only sound in the tranquil air. Finally, as one traversed the palace's vast and echoing halls, it became evident that this was a tale not just of survival against the odds, but of profound metamorphosis and adaptation. The fortress of memory, deeply steeped in history and the collective human experience, whispered secrets of old, allowing visitors to tread upon hallowed ground where bold warriors had once stood and peaceful dreams were spun. Inviting the modern imagination to linger a while, embracing yesterday in every carefully laid stone. In the soft, gentle light of a spring morning, almost 300 years after the very first stone was carefully positioned, the final piece of the vast and intricate puzzle is finally set in place. A small group of artisans and laborers stand back, observing the culmination of countless dreams and generations of work. This moment of quiet triumph and deep reflection is subtly haunted by the echoing presence of those who are long gone. Under the changing sky, a castle that was first dreamed of in the flickering candlelight of a feudal era finds itself finally complete in a world that has been dramatically reshaped by the thunder of cannon fire and the force of revolution. The structure stands firm and resolute, Yet its very essence, security, dominance, pride, feels strangely outdated and irrelevant in a world that has irrevocably moved forward. What was once a formidable fortress of dreams now faces the stark reality of its own irrelevance in the modern age. The craftsmen who completed the final work might feel a pang of irony as they step away, recognizing that they have finished a monument symbolizing an era that has already passed into history. This once imposing bastion, designed to resist any siege and withstand the fiercest attacks, now stands as a stubborn defiance against modernity's relentless and inevitable advance. Gunpowder weapons and rapidly shifting military tactics have effectively rendered its once mighty walls as little more than relics of past ambition. Yet there is a profound and humbling beauty in that realization, to see that human aspiration can genuinely outpace its practical utility and purpose. Wander within the newly finished castle, and you are not merely walking among ancient stones. You are walking through the whispered narratives of past purpose and intent. This fortress, originally conceived as a powerful symbol of dominance and a secure refuge, now resonates with complex questions about its current place and meaning. It was crafted as a citadel against invaders and a secure residence for knights and their valuable treasures. Yet over the centuries, that original purpose has shifted in ways that those initial builders could never have possibly foreseen or imagined. As mighty armies advance armed with cannon fire instead of swords, the walls now enclose an idea that is slowly fading out of relevance and importance. The castle's transformation mirrors the world around it, which has also undergone significant change. No longer a vital fortress for scattered villages, emerging towns now seek prosperity through trade and commerce instead of solely relying on physical shelter and defense. The once terrifying battlements, with their ominous and narrow arrow slits, now gaze passively over peaceful valleys, relics of a violent past now nestled within tranquil and serene surroundings. The past intentions embedded in the castle's design clash with its new role as aesthetic curiosities for wealthy visitors. This enigmatic building is far more than just a physical structure. It is a powerful narrative of shifting human priorities and values. It stands as a testament to how the immutable intention of defense must somehow dance with an era that has learned to thrive and prosper beyond the confines of stone walls. These stones, deeply steeped in the medieval world's superstitions and beliefs, have absorbed the whispers of bygone times. Legends cling to the structure like ivy, telling tales of ghostly midnight processions, alchemists confined in dark dungeon cells, and fortunes buried deep within the castle grounds. Science may address these mysteries, but the stories persist, handed down through generations, weaving themselves into the very fabric of the castle, a physical and mythic presence that bridges the tangible and imaginary realms. As you wander through the castle, these myths beckon you with their eerie allure, casting shadows of wonder and fear. The medieval mind thrived on the unseen and the mystical, and such stories breathe life into the cold stone, transforming its permanence into a living narrative. As the castle shifts from being a functional fortress to a historical relic, these myths gain significance, preserving emotional ties to a history rich with the unknown and the unexplained. Now complete, the castle stands as a finished vision, yet the power it once represented has shifted and now resides elsewhere. Once towering above humble huts and fields, physically asserting authority, its walls now echo with the memory of past dominance. As realms expanded and political centers migrated, the need for localized power structures diminished. The fortress, once at the very heart of influence, now stands marginalized and less central. Its royal court moved to bustling cities alive with new opportunities and energy. Left behind, these halls feel vast and somewhat empty, out of sync with the vibrant pulse of modern society. Grand banquet rooms that were once filled with the sounds of chivalrous revelry now resound with a profound and noticeable silence. This castle is an enduring imprint of past grandeur, a vessel that quietly observes as time continues to pass. With power centers now firmly established in urban areas centered around commerce and trade, the castle's significance in politics steadily wanes, highlighting how authority must adapt dynamically and remain fluid, leaving behind static and fixed defenses. This castle, now complete, reflects not just an architectural endeavor, but the preservation of centuries-old traditions and ways of life. Walls that once guarded life now protect fragments of a forgotten world. What remains offers a captivating snapshot of medieval life. The castle becomes a museum, a relic veined with the rituals and practices of the past, now presented as a spectacle for curious visitors. People come not seeking protection or refuge, but to catch a glimpse of a life that has been recast as spectacle, a shift from practical function to historical wonder. In its halls, one can imagine clergies presiding over superstitious ceremonies, jesters cavorting in echoing chambers, and knights engaged in solemn debates of honor. These traditions gain a renewed presence, existing not as everyday occurrences, but as experiences rich with the layers of history. They are preserved as a form of homage to a past that is now a tableau of memory rather than a living norm. As the castle nears its full glory, noble roles begin to redefine themselves. The lord who places the final stone does so with mixed emotions. His lineage, once rooted in the physical strength of fortifications, now embraces the demands of modernity, becoming entwined in trading networks and parliamentary roles. Influence stems no longer solely from inherited title, but from new world negotiations and forward-looking visions. Lesser nobles are forced to reevaluate their roles and positions. They are no longer anchored by stone towers. Political reach shifts, and the nobility's sway adapts to a commodity-driven world, with grand castles now serving primarily as relics of cultural significance rather than political necessity. Across the fading days, the stewardship of this legacy assumes immense importance. Bound by history, the castle now stands as a powerful testimony, weaving human stories through centuries of time. Preservation fosters stewardship, ensuring that it remains for future narratives, a capsule of medieval architecture encapsulated in memory. It has transitioned from a machine of war to a vessel of historical introspection, linking us to an era alive with the clang of swords and shields. Its preservation ensures that its lessons on power, society, and the human spirit are not lost to the passage of time. The castle holds dialogues in stone, inviting interpretation and reflection, a narrative rendered in battlements and barbicans. These expressions of medieval sensibilities, interwoven with inklings of the supernatural and mystical, are mesmerizing and captivating. Visitors encounter tales not through didactic teaching, but through experiential wonder, revealing the enduring power of aspirations held within ancient walls. Castles frame the dialogue between bygone thoughts and present reflection, uncovering narratives dense with pageantry and historical inquiry. So it stands against time, a dynamic stage allowing history to engage directly with the observer, making its stone walls serve as both a museum and a teacher, capturing the human journey in an endless narrative. Today, the castle stands as a silent sentinel, guarding the echoes of its storied past. Visitors walk upon its cold stone floors, tracing the footsteps of those who came before them. Each archway and corridor whispers tales of a tumultuous time when conquest and construction shaped the very fabric of society. Once a formidable bastion of power, it has transformed into a poignant reminder of a bygone era, a period marked by both brutality and brilliance. The castle, now static and venerable, is a time capsule that offers a glimpse into a world governed by superstition, survival, and ceremony. The whispers that echo through these ancient halls are more than just remnants of history. They are the voices of those nameless souls who labored tirelessly to bring the Lord's grand vision to life. These thick stone walls, once unyielding, now bear silent witness to the passage of time. For those with an ear to listen, the faint clink of a mason's hammer and the hushed breath of a century linger in the air, inviting contemplation. This isn't just an edifice of stone and mortar. It's a tapestry of human endeavor, woven over centuries with threads of ambition and folly intertwined. Unseen hands crafted the castle's imposing structure, connecting their lives with the edifice they built. Masons, builders, and laborers left their invisible mark, forging an enduring bond that transcended their own lifetimes. Visitors cannot help but touch the weathered stones, adorned with centuries-old graffiti and carvings, unknowingly linking themselves to the stories of those who toiled and perished here. These unsung heroes, their names forgotten by history, are eternally etched into the very walls, their legacy living on through endurance. Life within these walls unfolded in a series of untold narratives, rich with the vibrancy of a past long gone. Chroniclers and scribes documented the events that shaped this medieval stronghold. Battles won and lost, daily rituals, and the secrecy that enveloped its inhabitants are but shadows in these hallowed halls. Political intrigue, passionate liaisons, and sorrowful losses created a backdrop for countless human dramas. As visitors wander through, guided by the whispers of history, they sense the shared human experience unfolding in these chronicles. A narrative world where fact mingles seamlessly with folklore. Yet the castle's necessity waned with time. With the advent of new technology and the dawn of modern warfare, these mighty fortifications became relics of a bygone era. The once strategic strongholds transitioned into architectural wonders, symbols of past power turned into intriguing spectacles. Their obsolescence marks a new beginning as places of nostalgia, reflection, and imagination. As aesthetic and historic values preserve their essence, these relics provide insight into the cyclical nature of human achievement and obsolescence. Standing amidst towers that scrape the sky, one feels the juxtaposition of strength and vulnerability entwined within their stones. Castles project power and intimidate, yet they also reveal the fragility of ambition against time. Constructed to endure, each fortress bears the corrosive effects of the ages, a metaphor for human endeavor and the transient nature of prestige. This duality of strength and vulnerability engages visitors with the timeless struggle of human aspiration, meeting inevitable decline. The enchantment of castles endures in the tales saturated with folklore and legend. Stories of apparitions, courageous knights, and hidden treasures fill the corridors with an otherworldly aura. These legends blend fact and fantasy, captivating the imagination and evoking curiosity. They speak to the persistence of storytelling as cultural currency, highlighting the enduring power of myth to inspire wonder and reflection. For visitors, every tale unveils echoes of communal memory, inviting them on a spectral journey through time. These formidable structures are more than historical curiosities. They are intertwined with cultural identity and romanticism. Their silhouettes inspire stories of chivalry and adventure, firing the imagination and anchoring historical narratives within cultural consciousness. Castles fill art, literature, and media, their presence as evocative today as in the distant past, a nexus between what is and what was. The allure they hold is both tangible and mythical, reflecting a collective yearning for grandeur, lost and found. As visitors meander through the halls, a sense of remembrance envelops them. Each room, corridor, and tower holds narratives, reflections of human history, where achievements and failures are enshrined. The castle encourages introspection about universal themes, ambition, resilience, and the impermanence of power. The lyrical dance between past and present becomes an inward journey, acknowledging struggles echoing across centuries. In the modern era, castles serve as educational spaces, transforming into living museums that breathe life into medieval history. Through guided tours, reenactments, and immersive exhibits, visitors engage with a period that sometimes feels distant. Castles now foster experiential learning, bridging connections between past and present, and ensuring that history's lessons endure for generations. Ultimately, the castle stands as more than a structure. It's a mirror reflecting human nature across centuries, a testament to enduring ambition and societal evolution. As visitors explore its ancient walls, they glimpse our cultural heritage and shared humanity. Each glance cast upon its towers inspires both humility and kinship with those long gone. Through this fortress of memory, we find reflections of ourselves. Thank you for joining us on this journey through time. If you enjoyed our exploration of medieval history, please like, subscribe, and continue the adventure with us.